Welcome to the Dr. Ed Show. I'm Dr. Edmund Sulkowski, and we have a wonderful show for you today. Let's welcome our guest, Len Iorio. Len, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. You know, we're going to be talking about a lot of different things, and one of the things I want to talk about first is your profession. You have a company called Truth in Advertising. Well, isn't advertising about the truth?
Not always. My background is with KDKA Radio from 97 to 2005. I worked for WDV for a short while, and then Fox 53. And the one thing I could not believe in all my days working there were the ad agencies that would tell the client they were paying a certain rate and they were paying a much lower rate, and the agency was making much more than the 15% that they should. Let's just leave that as one example. So when I started my own business, when I left Fox 53, I thought, you know, what's the name have to be? The name has to have sort of a mission statement in the name. And I thought, truth in advertising. You know, everybody's heard the term before, but what if you named your company that? Because the company's based on truth and honesty and transparency. And that's why we named it Truth in Advertising. It was a perfect fit, and it's the best move I ever made in my life, was going into business for myself. It's not easy, but
no, it's never easy.
But it's your trouble.
When you're your own boss, I think that's the best situation you can be in.
Wonderful thing.
You know, is there a difference between advertising and marketing?
I think you could say there's an absolute difference. I think advertising is what you put on the air. It could be good, it could be bad, it could be indifferent. Marketing is where you put ideas together, where you sit down and you say, what is my marketable difference? For example, one of my clients is Sleep Pittsburgh. Sleep Pittsburgh offers free delivery regardless of what you spend. There's a reason they can do that, because they have deliveries all over the county. Levin would charge you $300. If you spent $1,000, they would deliver for free. That's a marketable difference. It can be a difference of $100 if the price of the mattress is the same. So it's my job to identify those marketable differences and really highlight those in the ads that we do. And I really truly believe in video almost exclusively. It's a video world, the 2000s. You know, are you living in it is my question. Newspaper, print, even radio are turning into being things of the past, honestly.
Well, I can tell you, being in the media for over 20 years, things are visual. People can see it and interpret it their way.
Especially now.
Reading, nobody has the time to do that anymore.
Right.
And, you know, you can't sometimes trust what you read. But radio, you're literally, when you're doing a radio show, as I do, by the way, let me plug it.
Absolutely.
Every Saturday morning live at AM 1250 The Answer, 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock. In fact, Len is going to be on the show on next week.
Next week.
Yeah, which would be August 8th, if I remember correctly.
August 9th is the date that we do it.
9th?
Yeah, 9th.
I keep thinking about that Friday, yeah. So you'll want to tune in and listen to Len talk on the radio show. But when you do radio, you have to, with words, paint a picture.
Theater of the mind.
And it becomes a little more difficult.
It's a lot more difficult, and it becomes more difficult because people, with their listening habits, you know, I have Apple CarPlay. I plug my phone into the car and I listen to music with no commercials.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to the radio in 5-6 years.
Yeah, just because Len doesn't do that doesn't mean you should.
No, it doesn't mean you shouldn't. Well, but there is a place for local news talk. Local news talk will never go away because it's the only place you can get it.
My difference is I think radio can be far more educational than
Absolutely.
what TV can be.
Absolutely.
And that's what we do on our radio show. We try to educate, make you think, make you do what you want to do with the
Right.
information you get, whether you want to ignore it or investigate it. And that's what my intent on the radio is. And I find that the radio audience tends to be a little more elderly, you know,
Yes.
55 and older. And younger people tend not to listen to the radio.
Right.
So there are some changes with this media. So you see these advertisements for all these products. How do you know you're actually getting what they're advertising?
You don't. You know, it's you have to do your research. It helps to have a spokesperson. Now, when I worked at KDKA Radio, we had John Cigna, we had Fred Hansberger, we had Mike Pintek, and I mean these guys.
I've met them all.
Yeah, I mean these guys were the absolute pros. Now, of course, they're paid for their sponsorship, paid a talent fee. But when Fred Hansberger did Gutter Helmet, or for me, or John Cigna did Zanotti Harley Davidson, the credibility was immediate. If you were a John Cigna fan, whatever he said about Zanotti Harley Davidson, you believed to be gospel. That's one way to really really gain credibility, is to use a spokesperson that people trust.
And I think that's important. Some people just take the money because it's for the money's sake. You know,
that happens, absolutely.
We have advertisers on our radio show, and every advertiser is somebody that I either do business with or use their product.
Right.
And I know what they're doing and how they're doing it.
And that's how Fred and John Cigna, that's how they acted. I mean, they would not get involved in for any amount of money in sponsoring some company that would hurt their reputation. Now, like you said, there's some talk show hosts out there that'll take whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
As long as they're going to pay, they'll be the pitch man. So again, as far as to answer your original question, how do you know? You just don't. But there are things you can do as a marketer that help lend credibility to your advertiser's message. And that, again, that's part of our job, finding those marketable differences that they have, that Sleep Pittsburgh has to Levin, and then explaining them in a credible way through the use of spokespeople sometimes, or not.
And you're not saying that one company is better than the other.
No,
they do things differently.
They do things differently. If you have a truck and you're going to go pick up your mattress, doesn't matter if they have free delivery or not. I mean, you're going to take it home with you. So it doesn't matter to those people. But for instance, free assembly on bunk beds. Have you ever put together a bunk bed?
No.
Wow. It's a process. It's a long, arduous process. Well, these guys do it every day. So they get their drill guns and they're done, put together. How big a deal is that for a new father that's already got his hands full and doesn't need to put a bunk bed together for 6 hours? It's a big deal. You know,
well,
it's a huge market.
Absolutely. I happen to like the style of like IKEA furniture, for example. But the heck of I'm putting that together.
The bunk beds are
I've
ridiculous.
done enough of that.
There are 1,000 screws in bunk bed. I don't know why it's the case, but the two that I've put together in my life, and I will never put one together again, thankfully. If somebody had free assembly, they're hired.
Yeah, I think the older I get, the lazier I get with
Absolutely.
that kind of stuff. And I buy stuff in boxes. They sit for a while before I even want to open them up, because I don't want to deal with the box.
Well, I mean, I've done drywall and redid my house and put an addition on my house in my lifetime and built bunk beds and laid laminate floors. I'm done. I'm done with that. If I can't pay somebody to do it, it doesn't get done.
It doesn't get done, exactly.
I've had enough.
Yeah, it's funny. I used to relax in detailing a car. I don't know. To even take a car to an automatic car wash was trauma for me.
Oh, when I was a kid, with
now I
a
don't
toothbrush and in my car, I'd run it through the car wash every once in a while.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just the way it is.
So you're doing something that's probably somewhat related into truth and advertising. You're transitioning into politics now.
I did, and that happened in 2020. I had to find a way to COVID-proof my business. And what happened to me in 2020, for example, I had a client, a county tourism client, and that county wasn't taken out of the red zone, whatever that was all about,
yeah,
and moved to yellow for almost a year. So needless to say, there was no tourism dollars spent for that county in that year. And in that time, their marketing director and Parks and Rec guy left. So I lost, well over $20,000 in income because of COVID. So I had to find a way to COVID-proof my business, and I thought, politics, money is always spent. It doesn't matter if there's COVID or not COVID, it doesn't matter. So at the same time, 2020, I found out about this guy, Tony Moreno. And I had a couple friends that were police detectives, and I said, I want to talk to this guy. He's running for mayor. And I met with him outside of Comcast up in Parkway Center. We sat up for like 5 hours and talked about politics, and I decided to be his marketing guy. So flash forward 4 years, we did a heck of a job trying to get him elected. We were outnumbered 6-1, and we only lost 3-1. So if it's not a victory, but a small victory anyway. And I really started to get more and more involved in not only advertising political, but as a committee man. I joined the Republican Committee of Allegheny County as a committee man for Heidelberg in my neighborhood. I work the polls every day, every primary and general election. I take that day off, and for 13 hours, I sit at the polls with signs and a table. I pass out copies of the Constitution. I ask people to come over and take a sample ballot, which of course we already have filled out, just for your, as like a slate card, so to speak. And people expect to see me there now. I mean, they thank me for putting these lists together, because they don't know who the conservative judges are, who the liberal judges are. They don't know who to vote for. So that's where the committee man comes in.
So when COVID occurred, when it was thrust upon us, and we went into lockdowns and wear your mask and don't hug grandma, and but for example, our Governor Big Bad Wolf, cabinet shop was allowed to be stayed open. My office was shut down during COVID for 2 months, medical care, but
you weren't essential.
Abortion clinics were kept open because they were
essential.
It was the insanity of power abuse.
There is no situation on God's green earth that allows the government to force you to shut your business down, in my opinion. And that was one of the most hurtful times of my life as far as my income. I mean, I'm not going to go into the amount of money that I lost. I gave you one example, with the Tourism Bureau. But I had Baker's Waterproofing at the time before they merged with another company. They were non-essential. So if you have a foot of water in your basement, you're just going to have to live with it for a while. And who is this king that determines who's essential and who's non-essential? A dentist is non-essential?
No.
I mean, if I have tooth pain, which is one of the worst pains you can have, I need a dentist, and I need one now.
So we're 5 years out, and I'm still seeing the effects of COVID on patients that walk into my office.
I'm sure.
That haven't gotten back into their cleanings, haven't gotten back into, they've let teeth rot.
I went a year at least without dental care.
Or
medical care, for that matter.
And medical care was as impacted. You couldn't get in. You could be sick and not get in to see your physician.
Correct.
So what happens is people don't understand that your overall health begins and ends in your mouth. And they shut that down first. It's almost like they wanted you to become sick.
There was no rhyme or reason.
Yeah.
There was no sense made of any of it. I remember pulling a high top table over to the bar, and I could sit not at the bar. I couldn't face the bar, but I could sit at a table facing parallel to the bar, and my friend could face parallel the other way. I mean, are you kidding
Or
me?
go to a restaurant that was covered in plastic on the walls and everything, and isolating tables, and you wore a mask, and you could pull it down to chew food and then pull it back up.
And then pull it back up.
Insanity.
Right. And if you got up off the table, you had to put the mask on. I mean, it was, and I think even people that bought it for a while are starting to realize how ridiculous it is.
Well,
the one-way aisles down the supermarket, and the dirty looks you got if you walked the wrong way.
And the comments.
And like, who's laughing now? I mean, that affected people in such a negative way. And again, it's one of the worst periods of my life, and it changed everything. It got me involved in politics. As we'll talk about, it got me to actually decide to run.
So your first step into politics was as a committee member?
Well, it was really as a marketer for a campaign.
Okay.
So I got to trial by fire, man. We got thrown right into the fire. I had to be a fundraiser. I had to call people and email people and ask them for money, which I'm very used to doing, but I'm usually used to giving them something in return. I give them advertising, I give them ideas, but to just kind of beg for money it took some getting used to,
Yeah.
to get over that. Because at the end of the day, you are giving them something. And for example, I'm running for county council. Allegheny County just received a 36% tax increase that was authored by my opponent, Bob Palmasina. Your $100 donation to me is going to get you something in return if I win. I'm going to vote no on reassessments. I'm going to vote no on additional taxes. And I'm going to vote to take a fine-tooth comb to the budget, and any funding of climate initiatives or
That's a pyramid scam.
illegal. I mean, why are we funding? I'm not saying that we shouldn't buy the most fuel economy vans and trucks for the county. Absolutely. You should look into every way that we can lower the carbon footprint. But to donate money or to pay for non-citizens when we have citizens living in the street, no. I'm a no vote on that. So I do feel like you get something by donating to your local politicians.
So politics and government is oppressive. All right, government. I don't know what they do for everybody. All you hear is taxes going up and we're spending more. Everybody's concentrated on national politics because that's what the media covers. But it all starts locally.
I used to be the same way.
And if you're not getting the right people in these little municipalities doing the proper things, then it's never going to be national.
Right. I think there's a saying, it's all politics is local. And I used to be the same way. I was very focused on the national, and I still am. I mean, that's national politics is the sexy stuff, right? That's the president and it's the Congress, or, senators, and, the local magistrate's not, that exciting. But it's the most important thing that you can do is get more involved in your local politics, because that's what really affects you. And I'll give you an example of what you just said, how oppressive government is. The PRT, as we're all familiar with PRT.
Well, explain what the PRT is.
Pittsburgh Rapid Transit, I think, is the new rebrand. It used to be Pat Transit. They spent $1 million to rebrand, and I know a little bit about rebranding campaigns. They don't generate more riders, and this one absolutely didn't. It was just a waste of money. But we're now PRT. The drink tax was passed 10 years ago, and the mandate was that the drink tax money goes to transit. So $28 million a year goes off the hardworking backs of bar and restaurant owners that were closed during COVID, that had to go through all of that turmoil. 28 million is given to PRT, and PRT just blows it. Where does it go? How is it not enough? Another drink tax wasn't enough to fund the mismanagement of PRT, and now they want more.
So it's mismanagement. So
it has to be.
So we have Doge that's in effect nationally, and the interesting thing, it's not funny.
It's not funny.
You have Elon Musk that's exposing this, but they want to shoot the messenger and not stop the problem.
Well, there's an ideology difference. There's a group of people in the United States that feel one way, and another that feels another way. And the one group feels that we owe non-citizens of this country something. I don't belong to that group. I believe that non-citizens are welcome here to work here legally, whether it's through green card or whatever the process. Absolutely, come one, come all, but do it legally. The overburden system that we have right now, because of 20 million people that we have to house, they have to go into schools. The kids have to go to school. They can't speak English. So now it requires you to hire translators. I mean, the cost of just illegal immigration alone is mind-numbing. I mean, how much did they spend on the Roosevelt Hotel in New York City for the 2 years that they were housing migrants there?
And giving them a cell phone and scooters.
From what they said, the money came from FEMA.
Yeah.
And then when FEMA was out of money for the North Carolina floods, then what?
Well,
I mean, it's just criminal. It's
You
criminal.
say it comes from FEMA, but it comes from you, and it comes from me,
It
and
comes
it comes
from us,
everybody
right?
else around
There's no
here.
FEMA tree out
Yeah,
there that grows money,
exactly.
correct? It's like when we talk about grants. Well, what was a grant? Well, where'd the grant money come from? It had to come from somebody. Now, if that's public donations, and we all donate to the Save Our Environment Fund of our own free will, absolutely, I'm all for that.
So, is there a possibility to have a Doge locally?
Yes, and you know what the possibility is? We've got to have more balanced government. We need Republicans and Democrats keeping each other in line. There's got to be a system of checks and balances, and right now there's not. And I'll give you another example with the passing of the 36% Allegheny County property tax. There are 13 Democrats on county council and 2 Republicans. You need a 2/3 majority to raise any taxes. You just need a simple majority for common business. But to raise taxes, you need 2/3. You need 10 votes. They had 13. They had so many, in fact, that three of their candidates, or 3 of their council people, were able to vote no on the tax increase, just to save face. One of them was the president of the council, Pat Katana, whose district includes Nevillewood, which is bright red, Moon Township, Robinson, that's Valerie Gato's territory. So, I mean, it's kind of a red, I don't know if it's completely red, but it's more red than blue. The fact that they had 13 council people, that allowed Pat to vote no. He would have voted yes if they needed his vote, 100%. But we can't even keep him honest in the votes. If we had 5 Republicans on the council, every one of the Democrats would have had to vote yes to pass that thing. And they would have all had to expose themselves as a yes vote to that 36% tax increase. Now, if we get 6, we have 2 in there already, we get 4 more, we can stop reassessment. We can stop additional taxes and buy ourselves some time to go through that budget with a fine-tooth comb and pull Sarah Inamorato's pet projects out of there if possible.
So I do believe
that's the goal.
There is a philosophy difference between blue and red, Republican, Democrat. But we elect these people to work for us, not to spend money and waste money on ridiculous things and just keep increasing our taxes, because we're going to run out of money.
Well, it's a problem, and what really scares me, and what my entire campaign is revolved around, is saving seniors' homes. We talked about that.
So that to me is a big deal, because what I see, people have worked their whole lives, paid property taxes, and the property taxes go up every single year. They never go down. They don't even stay the same.
School taxes as well.
School taxes go up. And you get to a point where your income is not coming in because you're retired or semi-retired or medically compromised, and you're being thrown out of your home because you can't pay property taxes.
It's the biggest issue right now. It's my entire platform is keeping seniors in their homes, because, and just to give you an example, I live in the Churches Valley School District. I live in Heidelberg, but Scott Township was where I was raised from the time I was 5 until I left home. My parents lived there for 30, 40 years. Chartiers Valley School District raised their taxes 6 out of the last 7 years. The only reason they didn't raise them this year is because 2 years ago we got 5 of our school board members in there and stopped it. We got them in there with the message of, how are you going to keep your homes if you're a senior? And we sent that message to people 60 and older. So that proved that the message of losing your home supersedes any ideology that you might have. Mm-hmm. And it proves it even more so, because one of the school board members that won was not able to cross file. As you know, school directors and judges can cross file, so they're on the Democrat and Republican ticket. One of our school directors was a straight Republican and still won in Chartiers Valley School District with that message, that if you vote for these people, you're going to get a 7th year in a row of tax increases. So that's just Chartiers Valley. Scott Township imposed a 56% property tax on their residents. It's to pay for the splash pad debacle at Scott Pool. I guess that cost overruns on that were through the roof. 56%. And then Allegheny County comes in, and Bob Palmasina's authored 36% tax increase for the county. How are fixed income seniors going to keep their homes? How are you going to keep your home if you're on Social Security? I mean, these people are already cutting pills in half to make everything stretch through the month.
Those type of tax increases, how are you going to do it even if you're fully employed?
Correct. That's a fair question. I mean, you know, I can get a second job, I guess, right? But that's what you're going to need to do. And there's no stop to it. I mean, the biggest I told you so in the world was that Sarah Innamorato, as county executive, was going to raise your taxes, because that was going to happen 100%. Everybody knew it, and now they're all shocked that it happened. And they're shocked that we may be facing reassessments. Why? Why are you shocked at this? They've told us what their plan is. Believe them. And again, Sarah and Bethany Hallam and their pet projects need to stop.
And what are these pet projects?
Well, the funding of climate initiatives, the funding of non-citizens, and God knows what else. That's the problem. We need to get the budget.
That's that World Economic Forum, one world government attitude.
I know what their ideology is, so I know the budget is filled with wasteful spending that does not fit in the purview of Allegheny County. Allegheny County should be funding roads, bridges, the sheriff's department. I think they are involved in EMS, services, public safety and public service and public works. That's what we should be focused on, because that's the problem.
So what district are you in?
I am in District 12. District 12 includes, and I hope we can talk about some of this too, because I have 4 wards in the city. So it's very unique. I have Bridgeville, Scott Township, Heidelberg, Crafton, Ingram, Green Tree, Roslyn Farms, and then the 4 city wards include Mount Washington, Overbrook, Beachview, Brookline, Esplin, Sheridan, Elliott, and West End.
So that is,
and the city wards have a unique problems that are all their own to the.
That's a diverse area.
Very.
And a diverse group of people.
Yes.
You have low-income people within that district and high-income people within that district.
Correct. It's if we had Collier, it would be even more diverse. But for some reason, even though Collier is part of our school district, they are not part of District 12.
And the position you're running for?
County Council, District 12.
And what does a councilman do?
Not much these days, but raise your taxes.
Raise your taxes.
I can tell you what I think they should do. They should be out in their neighborhoods. If you follow me on my Instagram, Len Iorio for District 12, I've been doing videos of the different areas in town. I started in Overbrook and did a video in front of the house that I grew up in until I was 5 years old, and talked to neighbors, found out that there's the street that I grew up on, Aaron Avenue, is being overrun by weeds. And I noticed it when I drove down to go to my old house and do the video. The weeds are growing over the road so that it's almost like one lane. So you wouldn't be able to pass 2 cars. And it's amazing what you find. I did another video in Brookline, right in front of the smoke shop, that someone drove a car through the front window, stole all the money out of the ATM. Brookline Boulevard's in horrible shape. They have crime there every day. They had kids throwing rocks at cars there last week. And where's county council? I haven't seen. I'm on social media. I haven't seen Bob Palmacina there at all. I haven't seen him on Facebook or Instagram saying, "Hey, I'm going to look into this. We're going to get police on Brookline Boulevard to start doing patrols." You know, if the Pittsburgh police don't have enough officers, then the Allegheny County Sheriff needs to put people in place to pick up the slack.
Well, aren't there a lot of businesses on Brookline Boulevard that should be speaking up?
Yes, and they are, and they're being ignored. The laundromat, a bunch of kids went through the laundromat and threw chairs, and just, probably didn't cause that much damage, but who needs that? What if there was somebody in there washing their clothes and got hit by a chair? Mount Washington, you've got the kids doing donuts. I don't know if you saw the news story.
No.
They're doing donuts in the middle of the intersections on Mount Washington, and there's no police there. And it's not the police fault. The police were defunded by Corey O'Connor and Bill Peduto in 2020. There was a 6-3 vote when Corey O'Connor, and this is the irony of Corey O'Connor saving the city. Corey O'Connor's responsible for ruining the city when he took $9 million away from the police training budget and they spent it on Stop the Violence, which is the irony at its finest, right? The violence hasn't stopped, but Stop the Violence got that $9 million. Now we sit here with 300 to 400 officers short of where we should be. And from what I understand, today, August 1st, 200 more retired. Now, I don't know if that was at a meeting that I was at yesterday, then somebody quoted, I'm quoting one of the regional committee members. But if that's the case, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble. And you can't put 2 officers on Mount Washington to make sure kids aren't doing donuts and, $100,000 cars. It's crazy.
Yeah, I haven't been on Mount Washington for a long time. I was there 2 weeks ago because the parkway there was an accident. It was blocked, and I went the back way into the city, which I hadn't done for years.
I do that when there's traffic. It's the last time I did it too.
Yeah, but how many council members are there?
There are 15. So there's an at-large Democrat, an at-large Republican.
And what does that mean, at-large?
At-large means they kind of cover the whole.
So they can go into all the different areas.
They're responsible for the whole county. It's just a way, I guess, I'm not sure why it was decided to do it that way, but I think it's more of like a fairness kind of thing to make sure at least one person from each party is on council. And like I said, our at-large candidate, they're forcing him to run again, Mike Imbrescia out of Mount Lebanon. I feel pretty confident he's going to win. And if he does, that puts him and Suzanne as the only 2 Republicans. That's why we need 4. We need me and 3 others. We've got Todd McCollum, who's running in District 13. We've got Patrick Provins running in the Mon Valley. We've got Mike Dell running up in the Monroeville area. And I swear I'm going to forget somebody. Bob Dodato running in, I can't remember the district, but it's Nevillewood, Robinson, Moon area, north of District 12. And I think they cover it. Chris Lochner is running as well. So we've got, I think, 6, not counting Mike, who's running for at large. We've got 6 additional council candidates. We need 4 of them to win.
Hopefully, they're all on the same page of being conservative with spending.
They are, and that I can attest to. We've had several conversations. The anti-tax message is all of our messages. Even, for example, Bob Dodato, who's running in the Nevillewood area, he's running against Pat Katana, who's the president. Remember, Pat voted no on the tax increase because he could, for no other reason other than the fact that he could get away with voting no and it would still pass. He's going to have a little harder time running on the tax increase because his opponent voted no, but he's president of county council. So the 36% tax increase still, at the end of the day, passed under his leadership. So everyone's at fault, as far as I'm concerned. Everyone that got us here in the first place. There needs to be some type of auditing of the budget. There needs to be an audit of the $28 million we hand to PRT that they just completely waste, apparently. I don't understand why a bus company that charges fares can't support themselves and needs this much public money. I don't understand it. I want to look into it. There needs to be a Doge of some sort. The only way that happens is if we have parity. If we have, 6 Republicans and 9 Democrats, keeping an eye on each other, making sure with system of checks and balances that we balance each other out. That's the only way to get good government. This one-party rule for the last 100 years has got us where we are today. And there's not enough police. I mean, people are going to be in trouble, man.
Well, who are you going to call when there's trouble if there are not enough police?
Well, there's people that don't think they need to call anybody. They just let you steal your stuff and call it a day. I mean, it's amazing, the people that I talk to, mostly on social media. I had a guy today tell me I was crazy that I believe they're trying to outlaw the electric or the gas-powered vehicle in the city of Pittsburgh. Go to Bike Pittsburgh's website, and at the very bottom it says they envision an era where there's no cars in the city. It says it right on their website. That's why all the parking garages are taken. That's why you can't park on the street anymore because of bike lanes.
See, that's another.
And that's why the businesses are leaving.
That's another globalist agenda. It's called the 15-minute city, and they're trying to do that. Or I think they have successfully been starting it in Cleveland, and Pittsburgh is on the list to be one of those cities as well.
And I understand that in a climate where it's 90 degrees most of the time. But I mean, you can't ride a bike for 6 months out of the year in Pittsburgh.
Well, I'm a mountain biker, and I've been only able to ride 15 days this year because of the bad weather that we're having.
Right.
Rainy
I
weather.
mean, look, you can have one or the other. You can have a walking, biking town with no businesses and tweakers on the corner, or you can get rid of the bike lanes and you can build parking garages so that people can come down and enjoy the city. If you've got, I mean, Sammy's Corned Beef, I remember when they closed like 3 or 4 years ago, and the guy, told me privately that was the reason. They were taking all his parking spots. There was no place to park anymore. They ripped down 2 parking garages on Penn Avenue, and they never replaced them. And there's more that goes into that. The parking revenue is what funds the pensions for the city workers. So the less parking there is, they're going to run out. They're going to have a pension problem at some point. I mean, it gets so deep when you get into the city. And again, for 5 years working with Tony Moreno, the things that I found out about that are going on in the city are absolutely criminal. And defunding the police was the first thing. It's $9 million a year for the past 5 years that's been taken out of the training budget. Well, we don't have any new police because we don't have any recruits. When you took their training budget, what did you expect to happen? And again, that was a 6-3 vote. Corey O'Connor voted yes. Peduto was still the mayor, who I graduated high school with in 1983, Chartres Valley, Bill Peduto. He's another reason I got into politics. When he said, if you don't like the homeless people, shop in the malls, I called Tony Moreno the next day. I was like, we got to get this guy out of here. So it's a mess. I mean, there's so many topics that we could talk about in the city that it would take an additional hour. But suffice it to say, the Allegheny County resources need to step in and fill the gap in places like Brookline Boulevard and places like South Side.
Which I understand the crime rate's really gone up on the South Side.
But again, the crime rate hasn't necessarily gone up because if you don't write a police report, there's no crime. If you don't write a police report, there's no shooting. And that's what's happening. And that comes from the boss of the police department, which is Ed Gainey. And it was Bill Peduto before that. Their ideologies are no different, Bill or Ed. The police are not allowed to engage. So if you're on drugs and you're flipping out on the corner, the police are not allowed to talk to that person until they commit a crime. So if that person pulls out a knife and stabs you, then the police are allowed to engage. And it is the most, if you remember the guy that stabbed the little boy at the McDonald's, the old McDonald's right on the corner of.
Yeah, I don't. But
That was he was outside, high on drugs, swinging a knife, and he went inside the McDonald's and he stabbed a 12-year-old kid, and the police weren't allowed to do anything. They should have tackled him on the street the minute he pulled out that knife. And it's just experience after experience and story after story. The homeless people on the bike trails. A pregnant woman died in one of those tents of a drug overdose. It was never it wasn't called a homicide. Someone killed her. Someone gave her a dose of drugs that killed her. They found her frozen, pregnant body in the tent 2 or 3 days later. Why? Because the police are not allowed to patrol that homeless area. They're not allowed to go there at all. Most people don't know that. And they blame the police. Why aren't the police cleaning this up? Why aren't the police doing that? Because they're not allowed. Because Ed Gainey will have their jobs if they go down there. Now, if someone had gone down there and just got to know that girl, find out her name, see if you can contact family. Hey, we got your daughter down here. Just letting you know where she is. You know, we keep an eye on her. She's safe. If you want to come get her, if she'll come with you, try and get her some help. That's not compassion, what they're doing. Compassion is actually sending the police in there to knock on the tent, say, hey, can you come out for a second? We want to check on you, make sure you're okay. Get to know the people. This guy's name's Charles, that's Bob. You know these people. Be able to help them. But that's not what they're doing. When Tony Moreno was a cop, his job was cleaning out Market Square of the homeless. They didn't put them in shackles and throw them in the back of a squad car. They humanely took them away, took them somewhere to a homeless shelter or someplace where they could get a hot shower, get some warm clothes, get something to eat. No, they were going to be right back in Market Square 2 days later, and Tony had to put them back in the car. But that's how you manage the situation. You don't just let it happen. You don't just let people sit there and sleep in planters on the street. That is not compassion in any way, shape, or form. And I hate to hear how it is. I'm being told that it is, and it's not.
so, as a council member, what's your first step to start to change all of this?
The first step is to get a hold of the budget, and I'm going to try and do that. I've been busy with campaigning. I'm going to try and do that right now and see how much information I can get to find the line items in there and see how much money we're wasting. There was another Biden era rent assistance program that they were going to continue. I don't know if that's continued or not. I want to look into that to see if that's still happening, because if the Biden administration canceled it, why are we funding it? They didn't even think it was worth taking past the deadline. So I need to look into that. The answer to your question is look at the budget and try and identify what we think is wasteful. Now, of course, Sarah Innamorato and Bethany Hallam aren't going to think it's wasteful. We're going to have that conversation. But at least we can use the bully pulpit of Allegheny Council to let the community know, to go on the news and say, look, we're spending this, we're spending that. Do you think that this is wise spend? Ask the voters. And that's the plan. I mean, we've got to trim down this budget because we can't continue with tax increases. It's just not sustainable.
And that's what voters have to realize, that it's going to be this constant tax increase.
And again, they do. And we proved that with the Chartiers Valley School District campaign that we ran, where we got all five of our school directors in on the message of, you are going to lose your home if this continues. And that was just on the school tax increase, which is a lot smaller than the county or some of these township increases. So I think it's a message that's going to resonate with Democrats, Green Party members, socialists. I mean, if you own a home, and not even home ownership, if you rent. I used the example in my latest video on Instagram. I went back to a house that my wife and I rented in Glendale in Scott Township, and used the example of the Chartiers Valley tax increases, the Scott Township tax increases, and now Allegheny County. If the landlord that owns that home has their taxes, all of their taxes, increased by $1,200 a year, your rent's going to go up $100 a month.
Yeah.
That's how business
At a
works.
minimum.
That's the tax is always passed on to the consumer. So the consumer pays the tax. You pay the tax. I pay the tax. The company doesn't pay the tax. The landlord doesn't pay the tax. And it's another concept that's really hard to get into people's heads.
Well,
they don't understand that IBM's not going to pay the tax. Exxon's not going to pay the tax. They're going to pass it on to you.
But your income isn't going up $100 a month.
And your income's not going up $100 a month. And your medicines are not going to get any cheaper. I mean, there's a medicine that thankfully there's a coupon for it, but it would be $90 a month if I didn't have the coupon. Now add $90 a month to your rent. That's $180. Again, if you're on Social Security, there's no way you're going to, 2 and 2 doesn't equal 4 in that situation. There's no way you're going to get there. So it's a shame, we're able to get through this. People like you and me, but it's the seniors, it's the low income. I don't know how they're going to do it. I really don't. And it's a shame because I just picture these grandparents losing their homes and, generational wealth just gone.
So you go in and you look at wasteful spending, and I'm sure there's a lot of that.
Oh, I'm sure.
I don't know where all that money goes because I don't see nice roads.
That's the problem, and it's public works and public safety. Again, not to mention Tony Moreno again, but we talked about it for 5 years. The job of the mayor of Pittsburgh is public safety and public works. That is also the job of a council person. We should be involved in public safety and public works. That's the #1 priority. Bridges, roads, snow removal on Allegheny County property. A strong sheriff's department. Brian Weissmantel was running for Allegheny County Sheriff against Kevin Krause. He's had many conversations with me about, and it kind of shocked me because I didn't think it was even possible. The county sheriff's department, those men and women they're police officers, first and foremost. They can be put on patrol somewhere. It's just a matter of having somebody do it. Now, why Kevin Krause hasn't put some of these sheriff's department officers in West End, or not West End, South Side, or Mount Washington, I have no idea, or Brookline Boulevard. I mean, everywhere I go, there's a problem spot, and the answer is, well, there's no police. All right, well, we know that. We know that the city of Pittsburgh is down 300 police and down possibly 200 more. How do we fix it? Or do we just allow it to happen? And I'm not the kind of person that's going to just sit there and allow things to happen. If I don't get support within council, I'll go to the news. Hopefully the news will cover the story. And again, the bully pulpit, having somebody out there that's going to say, hey, these people are doing the wrong thing is what we need. Now, hopefully we can get 4 or 5 of us that we can band together and do press conferences and tell the voters, hey, this is what's happening in Allegheny County. Because without us, you're never going to find out. Without having somebody on the other side to balance things out. And that's what we're trying to do even in the city. Erin Coper, who's running in District 2, City District 2, which lies within my county, District 12. She's done a great job with community outreach. I mean, she's been doing this for 2 or 3 years, where she's involved in Elliot's Night Out, which I believe is this coming Tuesday, where they're going to shut off part of the road, and we're going to be there. Just a way to get to know neighbors. We did some cleanups with Erin and the area of Esplin. If you know where, I didn't even know where Esplin was. Esplin is if you come out of the Corliss tunnels and make a left before you get to West End or to McKees Rocks. Esplin is on the left-hand side. Talk about a forgotten neighborhood. There's a house with a big burn hole in the roof. It clearly caught on fire and was put out, and it's just sitting there. There's empty lots. There's houses that aren't without boarded up windows that rodents or whatever can crawl into. Just a completely forgotten area. And while we were there cleaning up, there were people that would come out of their homes like, is someone actually here to help us? I mean, the look on their face was amazing. Like, there's actually somebody here trying to help us.
Yeah, so you're not exposed to that by the media, because the media only uses their format to present a certain narrative.
Well, you're right, but there's no counter narrative because there's really no Republican representation in Allegheny County or Pittsburgh. So why would they bother listening to one guy complain over here while everybody else is telling them that everything's fine? We need numbers. We need to balance this thing out again. I say it all the time. I don't think that having all Democrats is any better than having all Republicans. I mean, I think we should, especially on a local level, the politics isn't as fierce and isn't as combative. And I know that because I've had conversations with Teresa Cale Smith and some of the city council people. They're not as unhinged as they are nationally, and you can work with these people even on a local level at the polls in Heidelberg, in my little community of Heidelberg. 3 or 4 of the people that are running as Democrats admitted to me that they voted for Trump because they couldn't afford not to, was the quote. They couldn't afford not to. That sounds familiar. That sounds like where we are with Allegheny County. If you vote for Bob Palmacina, the guy that wrote your 36% tax increase, instead of me, good luck. I think you have to vote for me because you can't afford not to.
So this 36% tax increase has not passed yet?
Oh, it's passed.
Passed?
It's passed. And
so how do you undo something like that?
I'm not sure that you can undo it, but you can, at least until the next budget, you can cut the budget and then refund what's left over or put that in a rainy day fund. I don't think anybody minds paying the extra money if they get services out of it, and they're not. I mean, you just said it yourself. What do you see that shows me that we're getting services from Allegheny County? I haven't seen anything. I certainly don't see anything in Allegheny County's Pittsburgh region. I mean, there's sidewalks. And I understand that the county's only responsible for their county roads, but again, it's one big happy family, and nobody's doing anything to solve the problems. There's weeds this high coming out of the sidewalk in some of the neighborhoods in Elliott. It's just a shame, and there's so much that needs done. To answer your question, what's the first thing that I would do? Man, I think I'd have to pick like 3 or 4 things to do all at the same time. I think this is a multitasking kind of.
What, you think you're Donald Trump?
I'm gonna have to be.
So what we want is responsible government.
Yes, we do.
And,
yes.
And everybody's mindset should be set for responsible government.
And minimal government, not a government that tells you can't open your business, not a government that tells you you're not allowed to go outside. You're not allowed to build fires in your backyard. That was the best one. I can't remember if that was somebody in the city or Allegheny County back in the COVID days that said, well, you can't, we're asking people not to, a lot of people were at home, so they'd have a bonfire out back. We're asking people not to burn. And they just kept, it was one thing, asking you to do this. Let's see how far we can push.
1 hour, that's exactly how far you can push. How much you can
get
get away with.
How much we can get away with here. And if anybody doesn't realize that was the biggest psyop in the history.
Oh, I've been talking about it for 5 years, from the beginning, actually.
How many times have you had COVID?
I've
had it like 5 times.
Honestly, none. And I had a couple of days where I had twice bowel upset. But I've never had a respiratory sickness.
Still here though,
like
huh?
That. And of course, happy to say I never was vaccinated.
And neither was I.
So I knew from the beginning it was a scam, and on my radio show I promoted that. Somehow it didn't get shut down. Anyway, Len, we're at the end of the show. I wanted to bring you on because I wanted people to get to know you, because we need people like you who are looking out for people like me.
Yes.
All right.
And that's what's happening.
So you're going to be on my radio show, actually, and we're going to go into this a little bit deeper.
We'll continue this conversation.
Yeah. So Len Iorio, District 12, running for councilman. Remember, healthy pet is a happy pet, and when you're healthy as well. And you can listen to my radio show live every Saturday morning on AM 1250 The Answer and 92.5 FM, The Dr. Ed Show. God bless. Len.